To cap off our month of Brave Heroes, we have another legendary banner. Today we'll be going over the 12 units available and talking about what skills are on offer. For genealogy fans who went hard for Brave Selif, I have some good news and bad news. If you have any orbs left, this month's legendary hero is Deirdre. She's a blue infantry mage and an earth parap legendary hero that boosts attack. We actually got the data mine before maintenance, surprisingly, and we know her stats. She has 40 HP, 43 attack, 32 speed, 19 defense, and 43 res. Deirdre will have an attack super boon, but I would consider a res boon due to her weapon. This is Deirdre's first actual ult, and her base stats are pretty much updated from her original year 1 form. Lots of resistance, tons of attack, and some speed to go with low defense. Deirdre is once again focused on comparing res stats, so you want to keep that as high as possible. For old skills, Deirdre has Stillwater 4, which is simply going to continue to be a popular new skill for units that solely focus on res compared to defense, plus 7 attack and res at the cost of -5 defense. For C skills, Deirdre has attack and res menace, which is another popular pick, another skill that can give Deirdre big res advantages. She needs to win res checks for her weapon, the Spirit Forest Writ. 14 might, accelerate specials, and effective against dragons. If Deirdre is within 3 spaces of any ally, she inflicts -6 attack and res on the foe. She gets a free follow-up attack. She disables adaptive damage effects. And last, if Deirdre has more res than the enemy at the start of combat, inflict attack and res debuffs in combat equal to 80% of that difference. Max of -12 attack and res. So, relatively simple weapon. Deirdre has 2 Dragon Killer perks a range unit needs, Dragon Effectiveness and getting rid of adaptive damage. She can fight them safely with her high res stat. In combat, Deirdre will accelerate specials, inflict attack and res debuffs, and get a follow-up, which are all good perks. However, if she has more res than the enemy, she can gain massive extra attack and res debuffs. To get the max, Deirdre needs to have 15 or more res than the enemy, and very importantly, unlike things like Dragon Wall, this res check occurs at the start of combat, hence why she comes with Stillwater and 43 base res. With nothing else, that's 50 flat res, so against an enemy with 35 res or less, Deirdre gets the full attack and res debuffs. With the -6 attack and res from the weapon's base effect, you can potentially get -18 attack and res from Spirit Force Writ alone. That is quite a lot, and similar to Pledgeon type T-Buffs. With attack and res menace, Deirdre can inflict, or she can add 12 res to her res check, and that can definitely outmatch even high base res units like Brave Tiki. If you can reach the higher debuff values, even Deirdre's 19 base defense won't feel so squishy, and obviously she's going to deal a ton more damage. Attack debuffs may be an important factor for Deirdre's unique special, Circlet of Balance. At its core, this is a half a Glacies with half the cooldown, just like Altina's Twin Blades. Damage boost of 40% res on 2 cooldown. However, there is another effect tacked on. If Deirdre has more than 1 HP, if the foe inflicts a fatal blow and the following conditions are met, she will survive on 1 health. Basically, this is a miracle effect, so we know who Selif took after. Unlike Brave Selif's very easy to use miracle, Deirdre requires you to meet 2 conditions. 1, Deirdre or the foe specials are ready or has been triggered during this combat. 2, Deirdre initiates combat or the foe is a ranged unit. Also, a big important factor, Circlet of Balance's miracle proc only works once per map, so don't think about regenerating HP. It also doesn't stack with non-special miracle effects, which I think is just Ymir's ever-living dream. I think most people realize that miracle perks are very annoying to deal with, but you can bypass Deirdre's one in a few ways. First off, if a melee unit initiates on her, she does not get miracle. Second, if no specials are ready or used by either unit, also no miracle. I'm not sure if a ranged attacker hitting Deirdre counts as having Circlet of Balance ready. The hit will charge Circlet of Balance since it's on 1 cooldown, but technically it wasn't ready before the attack, so Deirdre should go down, I think. That needs some testing. However, you do need to consider that Deirdre is possibly inflicting -18 attack on the foe, so can they even one-shot her fully? If not, Circlet of Balance is going to be ready, which means Deirdre can technically survive things like a Brave Attack 2-tap, then fire back. Also, if the enemy is using pre-charged specials, Deirdre will survive regardless. A Deadeye Dual Crom may have to think twice before initiating. Now on the flip side, if Deirdre is the one initiating herself, she should almost always have Miracle ready. She hits 1 time, that charges Circlet of Balance, which will meet the 2 conditions for the Miracle effect. If you're worried about guard, Deirdre has an answer. She will come with attack and res tempo 3, our second tempo B skill. It inflicts -3 attack and res on the foe and grants no guard and no special charge. No guard is the big one to ensure Circlet of Balance is ready. Since it's on 1 cooldown, Deirdre will always charge it after 1 hit or 1 action, which is why I said she should almost always get Miracle when initiating. The same applies if the foe attacks with guard. Now, as for no special charge, very good at countering units who rely on things like steady breath type skills to charge a fast special for a counterattack. This is not guard though, so keep that in mind. Overall, Legendary Deirdre reminds me a ton of Legendary Julia, dragon killing blue mage with a ton of attack and res. For Deirdre, she does need to focus on flat res stats, so Still Water should probably be kept, and you want to supply her with field buffs and inflict debuffs on the enemy. Attack res and menace can do both of those on the closest foe. In prime conditions, Deirdre can inflict -18 attack and res on the foe, Temple bumps it up to -21 total. She has a free follow-up attack with a 1 cooldown special and Miracle, so Deirdre has damage plus survivability. With Still Water 4, she should hit 50 flat res, and that translates into 20 damage from Circlet of Balance, which is quite high. If you want, you could run times pulse. Pre-charge Circlet of Balance to proc it on hit 1. If the enemy hits you back, that will recharge it thanks to excited specials and tempo. 1 infantry pulse type effect will also do the same job. Something to consider is giving Deirdre a little bit extra speed. She can use her free fall to bypass wary fighter type effects, then double naturally, but 32 base with no other increases might fail against certain tanks, depending on your investment. Speaking of which, since she does flat res checks, obviously Legendary Deirdre benefits from merges, summoner support, dragonflowers, boons, and blessings. Funny enough, we just got a shiny new distant counter sacred seal for dragons, and in walks Legendary Deirdre with multiple countermeasures to attack into them. One of the stronger aspects of a dragon killer like Deirdre is having sky high resistance. A lot of dragon tanks have dragon wall, but if they lose that res check, the skill is absolutely useless or massively weakened at the very least. Much tougher to tank the effective against multiplier when you don't have damage reduction. Moving on, we have 11 other heroes on this banner to talk about. For red, we have Legendary Selif, Hugh, and Gustas. Blue has Legendary Deirdre, joined by Legendary Mirror and Faye. Green has Thor, Triandra, and Fallen Gustav. Last, colorless has Ash, Legendary Corrin, and Fallen Rhea. Suspicious amount of dragons for Deirdre to test her might against. Starting with red, probably the least valuable group in terms of individual unit choice, but if you want fodder, then it's not bad. Our only legendary or mythic is Selif, who is much less of a threat than his shiny new Brave Alt. Legendary Selif is super slow and tries to be an enemy phase sword cavalier. It's a wonky design, even if he might be able to do some decent damage. Virtuous Tearfing inflicts -6 attack and defense on the foe and gives Selif +7 HP per attack. Holy War's End gives Selif a 50% HP quick riposte, and I think the only enemy phase version of Desperation. He can make a follow-up attack before the enemy, but only on the enemy phase. This is not a dual phase Brave effect, so if the enemy has no follow-up, Selif won't hit twice, which lowers his KO power a ton. Additionally, Cavaliers have no cooldown reduction, which would have been nice for this type of playstyle. Unlike his Brave Alt, this Selif has 0 player phase power and no room for Kanto either. He does have distant counter, which is fine, and Drain Hone Defense as a buffing tool. Next up is Hugh, a speedy red infantry mage. His Cell Spell Tome can grant a bonus to all stats based on the number of Dragonflowers you give him. 5 Dragonflowers gets him +7 to all stats. Additionally, with 3 Dragonflowers or more, Hugh gets bonus doubler. So lots of stat stacking, but no other combative effects, which is a bit of an issue. To go with his bonus doubler though, Hugh has Rouse Attack and Speed 4, which is nice. He is also the only unit with speed and defense ideal for. Not a commonly used A stat booster, but he can be fine for units for maybe who don't need that much attack or just want some extra defense. Our last red unit is Gustas, who's a sword infantry unit without a unique weapon. There is kind of a big gap between inheritable swords and the unique ones modern sword masters come with. Gustas has high attack and speed, but so do a lot of other speedy sword infantry. The Rain Sword Plus inflicts -5 speed and defense on foes within 2 spaces, that's fine, and it was one of the few attack and speed inheritable options, but we now have the Upfront Blade from Kamui. That's +5 attack and speed with attack and speed debuff neutralization. Stronger personal combat, whereas the Rain Sword has its potential to support allies. Now, even if Rain Sword isn't needed, Gustas has other good fodder skills. Surge Sparrow is fun for attackers, and No Follow-Up 3 continues to be a strong offensive and defensive B skill. Unless you want these skills, I would probably not recommend summoning red orbs this time. Next up is the blue group, and we talked about Deirdre enough. For skills to inherit, Still Water 4 is still relatively new and is a decent choice for units who need flat res for stat checking. Attack and Res Menace is still a solid C skill for buffing and debuffing. If you use Sonya for threats and attack and res 2, you can get the Menace skill with the new attack and res tempo 3. Reminder, tempo B skills are infantry only. Next is Legendary Myr with her first rerun. She's a chunky blue flying dragon, lots of defensive power in her kit. Godly Breath accelerates specials, inflicts -5 to all stats on the foe, grants a follow-up attack, and Myr gets 30% damage reduction for all hits. Her Darkling Guardian C skill is a self buff activated when near allies at the start of the turn. Myr gets +6 defense against field buffs, a fallout prevention status, and the Warp Bubble status. Hey, those are pretty cool effects for Brave Crom to borrow. For fodder skills, Myr is the only unit with defense res unity. It's great for pure tanks if you want to turn around debuffs. She then has Dragon Wall 3, which can stack with DR from Godly Breath. If you can't disable damage reduction, Legendary Myr is pretty sturdy. Last up is Legendary Faye, who's a blue infantry dragon. She is also pretty bulky and a bit similar to Myr. Dazzling Breath inflicts -5 to all stats, has follow-up denial, and grants guard. If you can get through Faye's HP bar, she has her Life Unending special, which is a 5-turn miracle, but it fully pre-charges itself on turn 1, and after activating, it fully heals Faye after combat. Actually a raid boss with multiple health bars. For her fodder skill, Faye has Distant Stance, which is the distant counter skill with +5 res tacked on. This is a straight upgrade to regular DC. She has Dragon's Ire for the upgraded quick repulse with offensive no follow-up. Last, Faye has defense res Menace from her buffs and debuffs. Ironically, if you want to get Legendary Deirdre, you have the chance of getting 2 blue dragons. Lots of relatively rare skills available as well. Moving on to the green group, we start with Mythic Thor, an Astro Mythic Flying Axe unit. Thor is very slow with very high base attack and good defense and res. Warguard Mjolnir is a bit stacked with excited specials, armor effectiveness, +6 attack, -6 attack on the foe, and Thor gets a free follow-up attack. If she is solo, she also neutralizes enemy field buffs. Her Worldbreaker C skill is very fun. It grants +1 special charge to Thor and allies within 2 spaces, extremely potent cooldown ability, and especially good for unit types who do not have great cooldown skills like Cavaliers or Flyers. It's a great ability to mess around with. For inheritable skills, Thor has Attack and Defense Push 4. You can get the tier 3 from some free-to-play friendly units, and that will allow you to get the tier 4 with Flow Guard 3. Flow Guard is a very strong B skill for melee flyers and cavaliers. You trade Kanto for offensive no follow-up and Guard, both which are really good for attacking enemy tanks. We got that new Kanto sword, so maybe you can do some fun things with Flow Guard. Next is Mythic Triandra. She is a dark mythic flying green mage dancer. She has decent offensive stats, but Triandra's role is support mainly. Flower Sorrower inflicts -4 defense and res on foes in line with her, and Fretwood Dream combines dance with a Riz effect. Triandra can inflict -3 debuffs plus guard on foes in line with herself and the target ally. Pretty solid stuff. To move around more, she has aerobatics in the B slot, and technically you can support allies with speed and resurrection, although you need to be really close. It's more for Triandra's own personal combat, and she has attack and speed push 4 for additional offensive power if needed. Solid unit, especially if you need an Aether Raids dancer. Last up is Fallen Gustav, who's an excellent Axe Cavalier. Gustav is fantastic with very solid attack and defense and okay speed and res. He has all the perks you could want from a slower cav. Headsman Glitner provides accelerated specials, -5 attack, speed, and defense on the foe, and essentially special fighter, aka +1 special charge for Gustav and guard on the enemy. Additionally, if the foe can counter back, he gets a free follow-up attack. Gustav then has 3 amazing skills in Attack and Defense Catch 4, Attack and Defense Near Trace 3, and Attack Smoke 4. We have Attack and Defense Catch 3 and Attack Smoke 3 on free-to-play units, so you can get either Tier 4 with the Kanto Near Trace. We recently had Gerald as our Grand Hero Battle unit, and Gustav is basically perfect fodder for him since Gerald already has Attack and Defense Catch 3. Gustav is the only unit with Attack Smoke 4, but I'm pretty sure we'll see the Tier 4 smokes more and more as time goes on. Last group for today is colorless, starting with Mythic Ash. She is a light mythic and a colorless beast infantry unit just like Lord Asker, RIP. Ash is quite bulky, and Horn of Opening has accelerated specials, +6 attack, -6 attack on the foe, and if Ash has 2 or more allies within 3 spaces, she gets a follow-up attack. 3 or more allies gets her follow-up prevention. To support her team, Opening Retainer gives Ash his allies within 2 spaces, +4 attack, and also lets anyone within 2 spaces warp to a space within 2 spaces of Ash. The 2-space warp is very potent. For fodder skills, Ash comes with Attack and Defense Unity. You can pick that up with low Attack and Defense 3 at the same time. Next up is legendary female Corrin. She's a colorless infantry dragon with a large amount of stats everywhere. Corrin's primordial breath accelerates specials, grants +5 doll stats, and grants +1 special charge per Corrin's own attacks. This is to help with her negating Fang special, which is a defensive special that works against melee and ranged foes. It reduces damage by 30%, and Corrin's next attack deals 30% of her attack stat as bonus damage. To go with this kit, Corrin has Shield Pulse 3, she has Distant Counter to fight anyone, and then Drive Attack is just good for any unit. Recently, this Corrin has some interesting new skills to try. The new Finish 4A skills Brave Tiki introduced gives +7 attack and res, and if special is ready or triggered during combat, you get +5 damage and 7 HP healing on hit. With negating Fang, Corrin lacks Sustain, which Finish 4 provides, and you can put Distant Counter into the Sacred Seal slot now for dragons. It's an interesting idea. Last up, we have a very scary dragon in Fallen Rhea. She's a colorless armored dragon and a powerful one at that. Super min-max for low speed and high everything else. Ruinous Frost accelerates specials, grants +6 attack, inflicts -6 attack, and Rhea's first hit deals 40% of the foe's res stat as extra true damage. She also has Worry Fighter, so Rhea and the foe lose a follow-up attack. She will become even tankier with True Dragon Wall. For the first fight in either phase, she can get 60% DR, which becomes the standard 40% for second or later fights. If you have a Dragon or Beast ally on your team, Rhea also gets 7 HP healing after combat or at the start of every turn. For fodder, you get Brazen Stance 3 and Defense Rise Near Save. 2 pure tanking abilities, and Near Save obviously always good. Good Lord, Deirdre will have her work cut out trying to bring down Rhea, who also has a very high base res stat. If she can fight back, Rhea can also take 40% of Deirdre's own res stat as extra bonus damage. Yeesh. Colorless is quite strong this time. That'll be it for this month's Legendary Banner. Legendary Deirdre is coming in to handle that new DC Sacred Seal, and we even have 4 beefy dragons on this banner as well. If you cannot match her flat base res stat, she can inflict massive attack against debuffs, and she has a miracle effect in play, which is pretty easy to activate if Deirdre is the one initiating. If you can reach her for the melee unit first, then she's a lot less of a hassle. If you are a JoJo fan, then this might be unfortunate timing if you have no orbs, but it potentially gets worse because the next banner in September might be another year of Crusader Scion units. If that is the case, I pray for those that want all those units. Thank you for watching, good luck on your summons, and I will see you guys in the next video.